think twice. Now, I tend to overthink things quite a bit. It's not that I ponder every single detail, but I often find myself mulling over the future and the choices that shape it. What's both intriguing and amusing about this universe of ours is the sheer number of possibilities that lie before us. And yet, you can only do so much. Each action we take sets off a chain of potential outcomes. And more often than not, we're left in the dark about whether these outcomes will truly be positive or negative until we've truly lived through them. Greetings, everyone. My name is Adhisya. I'm no philosophist by any means, but I just tend to think about these thoughts once in a while. Now, let's rewind a bit to, let's say, 5 years ago. I'm in grade 5, I've just finished studying for an upcoming math test, and my father comes home with a comically large box big enough to fit a toddler. As curious as I've always been, I asked him what it was. "A computer," he replied. I didn't think about it much, but needless to say, I was fascinated, curious, and a bit baffled as to why he had to lug home a computer that size. My best guess was that he needed it for work, so I never really thought about it. But all of my assumptions were proven wrong the moment he turned that computer on. Rays of rainbow lights shone out of the box, and my jaws were left wide open. It was no ordinary computer. In fact, it was a gaming computer, powerful enough to run any program or games that you throw against it. Now, my father and I, we shared this one computer, but unsurprisingly, I never got around to playing a single video game on it. Thanks, Mom. She's sitting back there. But that was until the COVID-19 pandemic, a time where we were forced to stay at home and go through the burden of online school. Now, don't get me wrong, I never really necessarily hated online school, but the idea of staying at home and going through the burden of online school, staring at a computer for a whole 8 hours a day, was really bothering me. And boy, did it bother me. Let's be honest here. Let's see a show of hands for those who got bored of this new stay-at-home environment. Who got bored instantly after like the first few months? Okay, I see a couple of hands. And like any other normal person out there, what did we resort to? We resorted to TikTok, YouTube, Netflix, and my personal favorite, gaming. After all, that one computer my dad brought home one random night turned out to be useful after all. I remember my dad starting to regret his decisions when he found out about me playing games during my online classes. "Sorry, Dad, I needed something to stimulate my brain, something from keeping me drooling and sleeping on the table, something to maintain my sanity." Maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but you get the idea. Nevertheless, I still managed to get surprisingly good grades without cheating, that is. So it turned out to be a win-win situation for both me and my parents. But the thing is, one day, my curiosity has led me to find that I've spent a total of 2,169 hours and 34 minutes on a single video game. If you convert this to days, this is an approximate 90 consecutive days playing on a single video game. That's pretty crazy if you ask me. And I never really felt like the amount of time and effort spent into this one game were, say, meaningful. And it was also during this time period when I noticed a shift in my maturity level. I started making more rational decisions, and I started making more careful choices to my actions. Now, as I was trying to find a way to make my time more meaningful, this very video stumbled upon my YouTube feed. It featured a combination of both gaming and video editing. And for context, I've always had an interest in video editing ever since I was a small child. And needless to say, I was fascinated. I was pretty much hooked. And after doing a bit of research, it concluded that majority of these video game edits were made on a video editing software that was one, extremely complex, and two, really hard to learn. And long story short, it took me a good month to get used to this video editing software, and many more months to get used or to master my video editing skills. And with all this time spent both on gaming and video editing, I came to the realization that I'm starting to have a lot on my shoulders. I had to make a decision on what I would rather spend my time on. So that left me to choose between my two interests, gaming and video editing. Each action sets off a chain of potential outcomes. It's true, isn't it? We can never be sure about our outcomes, whether they'll be good or bad. But that is, unless you're an overthinker. You see, people often see overthinking as a negative thing, which isn't entirely wrong. However, the sheer number of possibilities, once used correctly, is truly amazing. Now, moving back to facing the tough decision of which interests to prioritize, I came up with the final decision of sacrificing my time in gaming for video editing. You see, through overthinking, you start taking things from different perspectives. You begin to delve into the why behind your decisions, asking questions that start with what for each action. You look into the potential benefits and drawbacks of every action and decision, and suddenly, they become clear to you. Spending more countless but productive hours of experimenting with different effects, music, and ways to make my ideas come to life, as you could see back here, I created my very own YouTube channel, just so I could show my creations to my fellow friends and relatives. Now, I wasn't expecting much from the 50 subscribers and the saddening amount of views that I received as I posted every creation. However, this all changed when my video editing skills genuinely started improving. My numbers began increasing at a rate I would have never expected to see before. And suddenly, what first started as a way to get my mind off the boring online classes soon looked like it could be more than just an interest. Suddenly, one day, I came to the shocking discovery that I have over 1,000 subscribers on that very YouTube channel. And that further captivated my passion in video editing. And I was right, after all. The amount of time and effort spent into video editing instead of gaming turned out to be pretty useful after all, and nothing was wasted. Or did it? You see, I was a 7th grade student back then, and school is still one of my major focuses. Unfortunately, my newfound passions in video editing has led for me to prioritize it over my studies. And consequently, my grades suffered a slight dip. Not that I failed by any means. And this outcome caught me off guard, to say the least. Why, you ask? Despite my careful decision-making process, I still faced consequences. Which is why I'd like to bring you to my next point. Newton's third law of motion. Sir Isaac Newton once said that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Or in this case, in simple terms, every action has a consequence. Now this left me perplexed. This left me pondering the inevitability of consequences tied to our actions. I really did believe that by overthinking every decision, I could be able to foresee and prevent any potential outcomes. But the thing is, you can't. No matter how hard you think or try, you could never be able to prevent a potential consequence. You see, overthinking could only reveal some of the outcomes that a decision or action may have. Keyword may. Despite our best efforts thinking of all the possibilities that await us from a certain decision or action, our future remains elusive. Our future remains unpredictable and beyond our grasp. Now, after experiencing the slight and sudden dips in my grades, I came to the realization that I should have never jeopardized my school grades with the time I've spent in video editing. Video editing has never been my main goal in life, but more of an interest. And unfortunately, that specific interest has led to my personal discovery and conclusion that I should have never prioritized my interests over my grades, which could lead me to my future. The experience that I have experienced has led me to find out that every action has a consequence. You take action from those consequences and you live through them. And the only way to live through them and practically learn from your consequences is, well, to experience it for yourself. And therefore, I would like to propose a quote. A quote from the fascinating novel, The Midnight Library. And that is, the only way to learn is to live. Thank you very much.